So you guys are all familiar with Andrew Tate, right? I mean, who isn't at this point? He's kind of been on the downward spiral over the last couple years, though. Ever since the red pill started its downfall, I don't really know what came first. Did the red pill start falling off because of this happening to Andrew Tate? Did they happen independent of each other, but still, alongside each other, parallel? Or did the other cause the other? I don't know. I don't know. But Andrew Tate was arrested by Romanian police, what was it, 2 years ago now, on crimes or charges of sex trafficking. At the time, that was as simple as it got back then, but over time, the investigators who have, as it turns out, wiretapped him and had multiple people, catch him on video that are friends of his, betray him and catch him on video admitting to crimes, basically had been running a multi-year-long investigation, compiling as many different charges and evidence as they possibly can. There is a very strong case against Tate. In fact, several of the charges involve minors. You see, when the charges first came out, and a lot of people became aware of all this, it was maybe a half dozen adult women going from Romania to the UK to America, claiming that he had lover boy methoded them to get to sex traffic them, claiming that he loved them and that they were his girlfriends, and then they would come to live with him, and then he would coerce them into sex content, and then he would take their income as some sort of tithe and claim it was for taxes, and he would also take their passports so they couldn't leave, because, he was keeping them in a foreign country. In many cases, illegally. They were illegally immigrating and staying in that country, overstaying visas. So, at the time, that was the most spicy version of the story that we had. But it got worse. You see, over the last year, it's come out that several more of his accusers were minors when this happened to them. And by minors, I mean 13, 14, 15 years old. Andrew Tate has sex trafficking and rape charges against minors and adult women alike. And I'm talking several underage girls, kids, not barely underaged, like 17 and 2 days from turning 18, as if that would change much. No, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, young people, kids, So yeah, Andrew Tate is in some seriously hot doo-doo right now, and we've got actually right now, I'm sorry I didn't get to this sooner, my bad. I did try to stream the last 2 days, and I wasn't able to due to OBS fucking me, but OBS is no longer fucking me, I am now fucking it, so we're all good. And they put this out by Sunrise about 5 days ago, going over the charges that Andrew Tate's going to be finally getting hit with across the board and going to trial for. Mind you, these are federal charges, by the way. If you know anything about federal conviction rates, both in America or in Romania, you know that Andrew Tate is fucked. Federal conviction rates are enormously high in both America and in Romania. He has the Romanian equivalent of the FBI after him, prosecuting him and charging him. He is actually in such deep shit. Caught on wiretap, admitting to several of the crimes too. Oh man, he is so screwed. Let's watch. Let's get caught up. Let's see what he's going to get charged with and how deep in the hot doo-doo he is.
Well, you've probably heard the name Andrew Tate. He's been in the news a lot. But how much do you really know about the man some have labelled the world's most dangerous influencer?
Now, currently awaiting trial in Romania.
Australians will try to endure. I'm just joking. I know that a lot of you are Australian. I do not want to ostracize 5% of my audience, or is it 15? It's a surprising amount of you guys are Australian. Don't worry. I love Australians. I love you guys. Australian women have awesome accents, super hot. I am not disparaging you guys. Australian dudes with Australian accents sound cool as fuck. You guys are cool. I'm not shit talking you, but your gun laws are stupid, and you need to make weed legal. That needs to happen now. I talked to a friend from Australia. I had a friend from Australia for a while, and she loved weed, but weed's not legal there. And it's really? Weed's not legal in Australia? That's so weird. And like the weed you can get in Australia is apparently quite shit. So we need to get some weed over there, some of that good weed, like the genetically modified giga weed we have here in like Washington and California.
He and his brother Tristan are charged with human trafficking, rape and involvement in an organised crime group. Now, despite his legal troubles, however, Tate's wealth and notoriety continue to grow. Andrew.
Isn't it weird how like rich people can like continue to get richer while being charged with like rape and sexual trafficking charges against minors by the FBI, pretty much? What a broken system. Like, everything has.
Tate began his career as a professional kickboxer before turning to reality television to build his profile, appearing on Big Brother UK in 2016.
So I know I'm the most intelligent person in this house. I know I'm the most capable person in this house. Fact.
The British American rose
to be fair, that might have been true. Like, that actually might have been true.
To global fame, earning millions with his provocative online courses, including the Pimping Hose degree and...
Guys, you never leave the house without your Pimping Hose degree, right? Like, I never leave the house without my Pimping Hose degree. You've got yours, right? I never leave the house without it. Like, if you're going out and on the daily life without your Pimping Hose degree on you, then you're not living life correctly. Like, this is genuinely, like, Andrew Tate is a cartoon character in real life. So much so that, like, there was a South Park episode that had Andrew Tate in it, and he was just Andrew Tate. They didn't really, like, exaggerate him or anything. They just had him be himself. Like, they just presented him as Andrew Tate, and he's so silly. Wait, there was? Yeah. The police chase him down and get into a gunfight with him because he's a wanted sex trafficker. And it's that rare South Park W in the 2020s. South Park has some rare W's politically these days, but still rare, you know, rare W's every once in a while.
The War Room.
The War Room is the most powerful network on the face of the planet today.
Branded the king of toxic masculinity, he's been accused of promoting the sexual exploitation of women.
Tate has managed to appeal to millions of young men by exploiting their insecurities. Once in his orbit, these same young men are encouraged to buy more.
Well, like, if you're like a young guy who's had his entire life media and like just general life and social spaces tell you that sexual success, monetary success, basically those two things as a man are what will make you a happy man and a fulfilled man. Hell, you might only be able to feel happy having those things simply because you've been told you're supposed to have those things your whole life. Money's a similar thing, right? Like, I think a lot of people, like, if they didn't need, like, a lot of people, even once they're pretty well off in many cases, that end up making money, end up making more money simply for the sake of it, because they've been taught to make money for the sake of making money. And so, and they don't even enjoy the work. They could literally retire and live a happy life, but they continue working and making money because they can't retire and stop. They need to keep making money because you got to keep making money, you know? And I feel like people do that for its own sake, and a lot of men are taught that, like, sexual activity with many women, having tons of money, wealth, flexing ability, not so much a thing that they want because having it is something they'd enjoy for themselves. They have been told they should want it. And at a certain point, the FOMO, the like generationally enforced FOMO, is so strong that they don't even remember if they ever truly wanted these things for themselves anymore. Like, they need these things. They need to be wealthy. They need to have lots of women. And they don't even know if that's truly themselves and what they wanted, or if that's what society or the spaces they inhabit told them they need to want. I don't know. Maybe I'm off base here, but I feel that's the case for a lot of these young dudes. Like, a lot of them wouldn't be so obsessed with getting laid and being a fucking bro, being a pimp, if that kind of stuff wasn't framed as being so worth attaining before they even discovered Andrew Tate.
More and more courses where their final destination is a cult that teaches men how to turn women into slaves.
Award-winning journalists and documentary filmmakers Matt Shea and Jamie Tarson gained unparalleled access to Tate and his inner circle.
There's not a single female complaining.
Do you think there's not a single female complaining?
Have you seen one? Tell me.
As well as shocking accounts from whistleblowers.
Have you seen one? Tell me. I do like that Andrew Tate believes that like people are going to believe he's not sexist when he never says women. I think I've heard him say women twice. He always says females. He almost exclusively refers to women as females. Like, who the fuck is buying the claim that Andrew Tate does not have any hate for females, as he would say?
And alleged victims.
If I wasn't doing well, things would become more violent.
Now, their new book explains how a failed reality TV star became one of the most famous and controversial influencers in the world.
And we welcome author Matt Shea live from London. Good to see you. Before his arrest at the end of 2022, Andrew Tate was the most Googled man on the planet, outranking people like Donald Trump, even COVID-19. Why do you think he is so popular within a certain set of people and influential amongst young men predominantly?
Well, this hasn't just happened naturally because he is charismatic and people like him. There's a marketing team behind him of dozens of people who all know exactly how to manipulate social media algorithms to make him.
This guy is on point, but there's a really good question in chat I want to answer right now, so it's going to be a bit of a distraction from what he's saying. Xander Hall, do you think it's possible Tate is grifting as a sexist for money? I think we should probably build a sort of distinction between two different types of grifting, because there really is a difference, like a line in the realm of grifters that I think needs to be acknowledged. So you've got your grifters like Candace Owens, okay? Now, Candace Owens is, I think, entirely disingenuous in what she says and believes, or says she believes. I don't think she believes any of it, like actually any of it. I think it's all bullshit. The stream dropped for a second, by the way. I think it's just a hiccup in my internet. It's not OBS fucking. It went right back to normal. But yeah, like, what was I saying? Like they don't. I don't think Candace Owens believes in any of the shit she spews. There is a long record going back over a decade at this point, proving that she has gone from grifting for like the left to grifting for the right. She started out making like Social Autopsy, a like doxing site for like super lefties to dox people who are mean Nazis online, which got a lot of hate from the right. And then she eventually went into the right wing. Like, she does not believe any of it. But then you've got people like The Quartering, and people like Grums, and people like Geeks and Gamers. And they are grifters, don't get me wrong, but they're a different kind of grifter. Because traditionally, a grifter is somebody who lies and misrepresents what they believe and care about for the sake of money. But at the same time, these conservative grifters, they do believe in this stuff to an extent. Like, The Quartering probably does believe in a woke takeover of media that he genuinely is against. However, he is disingenuously pumping out non-stop drivel content just to make a quick dime, and he's very shamelessly open about that. He doesn't believe that his content is going to change anything. He doesn't believe that he's influencing or educating people towards a good cause. He knows and recognizes and even jokes about, self-awarely, that he is just making slop content for people who already agree with all of his anti-woke takes. So he's a grifter in the same way that, like, a YouTuber who might start off really genuinely into a video game franchise, making news videos about that game franchise, but as years pass and they, like, run out of things to cover, they start pumping out, like, clickbait fake stories about it, like, just to make a disingenuous clickable video that goes from being that is grifting. They may genuinely care about that game franchise, and they're talking about it and being interested in it isn't disingenuous. That's not the grift. The grift is the way in which they are producing that content disingenuously for the sake of monetary gain. So you've got your Candace Owens style grifters who don't believe a word of it, are literally pretending to be a different person for money. And, you know, Blair White's a good example of this too, I think. And then you've got your grifters who genuinely believe in the base core ideas they advocate for, but are only using that rhetoric and that political position as a, like, racket for money. And that's all it is to them. And they recognize they're not really doing anything there. I think that's the kind of grifter Andrew Tate is. I think Andrew Tate is a legitimately sexist piece of shit. He is a rapist, or alleged rapist and sex trafficker after all. But I think that a lot of the character he plays, a lot of the things he says that are so over the top, and a lot of, like, the most disgusting things that he's done are virtue signals of his sexism, done in the same way. That is part of the grift. Like, yes, he is a grifter, but the sexism isn't fake. He's not faking that. He's over-exaggerating it to attract eyeballs and make money. So yes, he's a grifter, but he's not pretending, if that makes sense.
Famous, which has always been his number one goal. They financially incentivize young people to share content of him. So he's financially incentivized, you know, millions of young teenagers around the world to reshare controversial clips of him, and the algorithm favors that controversial content. And also, finally, he plays into the insecurity that men feel. So he portrays himself as wealthier, as more successful with women, as a better fighter, as things that men may be feeling insecure about. He makes men double down on those things.
And it helps that he can, at least to the average person, it looks like, prove his point. Like, if you look at Andrew Tate's lifestyle and, like, how he lives and just the way that he presents himself, it seems like he has achieved all these things. He is very built up. He's, like, very, very muscular. He is a pretty good kickboxer. Like, he's not anywhere near as good as he would want you to believe he is, but he was a good kickboxer. There have been people who hate him and have tried to, like, deny that, but let's be real. His record stands pretty strong. He was a pretty fucking good kickboxer. He could probably beat up 99% of people on the left, and that is an undeniable fact. He would probably lay Hassan out even in a fight. And for all the shit I give Hassan could crush me in 5 seconds, okay? Like, I have no delusions about that. In a physical fight, not in a debate. But, like, you know, he's physically fit. He's got a ton of money, and there's no denying that. He's got a compound. He's got so many cars. And on top of all that, you can see countless videos of him in a hot tub filled with half-naked, very attractive women, kissing him, grabbing up on him, definitely fucking him. And, like, whether you don't know the background, you don't know the inside out, certainly not the average potential Andrew Tate fan doesn't see the background, but they are seeing what has either been told to them is what a man should see as the dream life, or what they might genuinely see as a dream life. I don't really think there's necessarily anything wrong with looking at this life outside of the crime and the exploitation, like being fit, muscular, hanging out in, like, a nice house in a hot tub with lots of hot women who want to fuck you. I don't think that is a bad or, like, evil dream for men to have. That is a fine fantasy to have and a goal to aspire to. But Andrew Tate takes that common goal and dream that many men would share and says you have to be a piece of shit to achieve it, and then presents himself having that dream achieved. I mean, he has achieved that, and then he's like, look at me. What, you gonna talk shit? You gonna hate on me? What color is your Bugatti? There you go. And that's how he and his fans have handled criticism for the better part of a decade now.
Things. He makes fun of them, he belittles them, and then offers the solution out of that insecurity, which inevitably involves buying more and more of his courses.
Yeah. Now, it's been said that Tate has defined a whole new era of misogyny. Throughout your investigation, what's the most harrowing thing that you uncovered?
Well, First, we began looking into him as someone who's spreading kind of toxic masculinity and misogyny to millions of young men around the world. Then we started hearing from women who alleged that he had actually sexually abused them and physically abused them, allegations which he denies. But then it got even more bizarre and more disturbing, because we discovered that the War Room, that organization that you mentioned in your intro package, which exists all around the world, is actually training young men how to groom and manipulate women into the webcam sex industry. And we identified...
So the problem with Andrew Tate's defense is going to be the fact that he literally ran a class that people had to pay for that explains step by step how to do what he does. And that step by step is explaining the lover boy sex trafficking method, which is exactly what he's being charged with doing. So it's not even that he's been caught on wiretap admitting to it. It's not even the countless clips online of him admitting to it. It's not even the fact that there are countless women claiming he did it that will give testimony. It's also the fact that he literally built his wealth on teaching men how to sex traffic, and I quote, like he does. Am I tweaking, or does Andrew Tate have an incel jaw? Yes, Andrew Tate has an incel jaw. Andrew Tate has literally no jaw or chin. That's one of those things a lot of people don't even notice, because like that's actually his brother, but both of them have this. No one really notices it because they're muscular, and they have the charisma and the energy and presentation to make you like actively ignore things like that. But Andrew Tate literally has no chin, famously so. If you actually pay attention, he has like no chin, like actual incel chin. So does his brother Tristan Tate. But like, yeah, they literally don't have the Chad jawline, which is kind of like a perfect own on the incel culture belief that like your sexual success was decided before you were even born by your genes and by your jawline and your wrist diameter or whatever.
Through leaked chat logs from the War Room, dozens and dozens of potential victims. Those are only the ones that, you know, are confirmed that I can speak about. The real figure could be much higher, but dozens and dozens of women who have all been groomed and manipulated by men who have learned to do that in courses they've bought from Andrew Tate as part of this secret society of men, the War Room.
Yeah, this is really scary stuff. So these alleged victims, how did some of them escape his control?
Well, inevitably, you know, these men think that they can control women. They think they've come up with this formula for manipulation and abuse that works. But in reality, you can't just control another human being. And these women did eventually, many of them came forward, went to the police, or contacted us when they found the police weren't taking their claims seriously.
Okay. How did Andrew feel about the documentary you made? Does he know about the upcoming release of the book?
He hasn't mentioned the book. He was very angry about the documentary. I mean, if you watch the first documentary that we made, he actually punches me in the face during one encounter that we had where I asked him some questions he didn't like. I kind of...
Wait. He assaulted him? Andrew Tate assaulted this guy? How is Andrew Tate not actively in jail on assault charges? You can't just punch a dude in the face. Maybe he's like, this guy was like, no, I'm not going to press charges. He's already in too deep of shit. That kind of sounds like it might be the case. Like, he just doesn't want to complicate the current legal process Tate's already in, because if he gets another lesser case to deal with, it's just going to be distraction from destroying his life with the actual real case of him sex trafficking. And raping. So, like, you know, you don't want to just pile something else on and complicate his legal situation and prolong like all of this and give him a potential chance out. But Jesus Christ, he assaulted him? Or was it Tate or his fan? The way he worded it sounded like Andrew Tate himself punched this guy in the face when he asked a question he didn't like. That is insane. Like, actual psycho man baby behavior. Like, someone needs to, like, have a tranquilizer gun around him constantly, like a fucking gorilla, to like put him to sleep if he starts going fucking ape shit, you know?
hinted at allegations that he might be grooming women. He asked me to meet him in a boxing gym. Then he said, "Put on some gloves. You're boxing me."
What?
And
What?
this was kind of a way to teach me a lesson. And this is something that I began to realize about Andrew Tate, is that the core tenet of his...
For those that don't know, Sam Hyde is apparently a lot like this too. I'm actually mutuals with Epic Mealtime. It was one of the craziest fucking follows I ever got on Twitter, was when Epic Mealtime followed me back. The Harley, the guy who runs Epic Mealtime, followed me back on Twitter. He is very progressive. He's not very loud about it. He kind of keeps it close to the chest, but he's very progressive. But something he's very good at, and part of like what's neat about him having kept how left-wing he is, like probably socialist, so close to the belt, is that he's friends with a lot of conservatives. They bring him on to their shows, their podcasts and stuff. They have no inkling of his politics. They don't know he is in any way progressive, and he will take their conversation they'll have about some conservative bullshit, and then he'll move the direction of the conversation to something more progressive. Like he'll make them agree with a left-wing idea covertly, like by like gaslighting them by omission into thinking he's just a fellow conservative edgy boy, but he gets them to agree with like trans rights and shit when he goes into like PKA, or when he goes onto like he's friends with Sam Hyde, and Sam Hyde has said the most woke shit I've ever heard Sam Hyde say as a joke that Harley got him to say, because Harley gets him to say things like trans rights as a totally funny joke. It's totally a joke though, kind of thing. And so he really knows how to play these people sort of the same. He knows how to talk to these people. You know, it's not even playing them. It's not manipulating them or gaslighting them. It's not even insidious. It's just he's very socially competent and a funny dude, and knows how to talk to even the most vile conservatives in a way that like disarms them and even gets them to kind of agree with progressive ideas, because it's coming out of the mouth of someone they don't even know is progressive and they haven't written off and even have respect for. Really like Harley for that. That's dope as fuck. But this happened when Harley met up with Sam Hyde for the first time. I watched the videos. Sam Hyde, like whenever he felt like he didn't have enough control of the situation, because Harley's a big dude and he's imposing. Harley's like 6'4", 6'5", maybe 6'6". He's a big guy and wide too. He's not just tall, he's wide. You know, Epic Mealtime guy's got some bulk. He's not fat, he's muscular. So he's a big dude, and Sam Hyde is also a giant of a man. Probably also on steroids too. I think he's actually admitted he's on steroids. So Sam Hyde's a big dude and is very used to just physically imposing on everyone. Something I think Andrew Tate probably does too. Like, biggest guy in the room, most wealthy and powerful, is probably just used to everybody following him and like, socially bending the knee to him. Sam Hyde seems to have a similar way of carrying himself. And so watching Harley deal with him, Harley's like the perfect foil to Sam Hyde, and Sam Hyde's response was put on some boxing gloves. We're gonna box, and that led to Harley boxing in Crater Clash and all that. But yeah, Sam Hyde will do that. He'll be like, "All right, let's box." If he feels like you're not being wrangled in enough by him, and like he's not controlling the situation enough. It's a really bizarre thing that like conservative shock jock types do. Like the boxing stuff has become really popular. Like, you can box me. Like I've been challenged to boxing like matches. It's like, no, I am not going. For one, even if I won, I'm going to take a few shots to the face. And it's not that I'm like upset about like taking shots to the face. I can handle that. But there is countless scientific review and consensus that even getting punched in the face a few times in a boxing match does like long-term brain damage. We know like one of the Paul brothers has this happening to him. No, I'm not going to risk like actual serious fucking internal damage that could like shorten my life for like a meme boxing match. That's what I think is really stupid about a lot of those boxing creator events too. Like these creators doing that shit are giving themselves severe internal hemorrhaging like in their brain and stuff, and they don't even know it because they're coming out of the fight feeling good and adrenaline filled, and they feel fine a few months later. For all they know, they shaved 5 or 10 years off their life and they're gonna die of like a brain aneurysm at the age of 40 or 50. Not unheard of. It's happened. So yeah. I don't know why I sidetracked into that massive stun lock, but I suppose it's relatively related. My main point being, there's this weird obsession with bro just box me in the conservative sphere. Like, yo, I don't have enough control of the situation. I need to intimidate you. I'm going to challenge you to a boxing match. So if you decline, you've indicated some form of weak masculinity. But if you agree, and you totally couldn't win because it's like smurfing. Like, this guy is not a boxer. He can't fight, probably, unless he might have some rudimentary fighting training, you know? But, you know, he actively, like, challenged somebody who is a far weaker opponent to either agree to it and take the punishment or, like, decline and look like a pussy. It's a very weird and, like, slimy tactic, I guess.
Philosophy is that violence underpins everything, and that to be a real man and to be an alpha, you have to be able to...
Oh, hell yeah, Delancey. I'm surprised Hamas is pushing for it. Hopefully they're willing to stick to it.
Commit violence, and he was trying to kind of teach me that lesson. So you can see that in the first documentary.
So, Matt, despite his legal troubles, being arrested, his websites are still fully operational. I mean, that doesn't seem right.
Yeah, I mean, the popularity of Tate continues to grow. He's still incredibly successful. And also, his popularity on sites like X is growing. He was reinstated after being banned by Elon Musk when he took over Twitter and turned it into X, where he now has millions and millions of followers. He's only able to achieve this unprecedented level of popularity thanks to the megaphone afforded to him by social media companies. And, you know, the algorithm benefits the content that he's putting out there. The more controversial, the more people both hate and love it.
The fact is, it's mutually beneficial. These far-right content creators are producing massive rage bait, which is always going to be the most profitable content online. Rage bait right-wing content creators will always have a monetary advantage over the left, and a monetary advantage bias-wise with these platforms. There's a reason why when Steven Crowder got banned for that, God, I might get banned just for showing it. Can I find a picture of it? Steven Crowder minstrel show. When he streamed this bit on YouTube, the minstrel show bit. Yep, found it. He has scrubbed a lot of video and images of this off the internet, but this is him doing a little costume, a fun little costume, harmlessly so, you know? And obviously he got demonetized for this, a nice slap on the wrist from YouTube, just a demonetization. And I know I'm stun locked. It's not really stun locked. This is kind of related. But he did this, and he got demonetized. And in response, Ben Shapiro, at least according to him, called Susan Wojcicki, the at the time CEO of YouTube, personally on her personal cell phone, and like had her remonetize him, quote unquote, chewed her out, is what Ben Shapiro said. He chewed her out, and the next day he was remonetized. So no, there are big conservative content creators, at least Ben Shapiro, who had a direct personal cell phone line to the old CEO of YouTube, who was supposedly a progressive compared to the current, like, crypto bro Elon Musk friend, who is the current CEO of YouTube. So, like, if you have any doubts about whether or not YouTube has a bias in favor of conservative content as opposed to against it, that should make it very clear.
The more shares and clicks it gets.
Okay, so can it be stopped? Can the law stop him? Can social media stop him? What happens here?
I think there are social media platforms that have successfully regulated extremist content, and I think more need to do that. I think that is the solution. I mean, that's what's changed here. There's always been extremist people, but only now can those extremist people reach literally every child's phone instantly. Yeah, you know, that's crazy. That's the world we live in.
What's the best hope for this book? Are you hoping to stop him, to lift the lid? Like, what is...
The hammer, the rock-solid cock of the law going deep in his asshole is what needs to happen. Justice needs to shoot ropes through his guts. I don't know. He needs to go to jail for a very long time.
Your big hope and dream.
His brother, too.
That your book will achieve.
My hope is that if we keep repeating the stories of the alleged victims and we keep showing people that, you know, a lot of young men who support Andrew Tate, they say, oh, you know, I know he says some crazy stuff, but he also has some good advice. What I want people to realize is that this isn't just, you know, a little bit sexist. This is incredibly insidious and dangerous extremist misogyny.
Yeah, it's a
I think that we need to constantly remember that, like, there are some ideas that men are taught almost unanimously that are fundamentally toxic. And one of them is the depersonalization of women as, like, an idea. It took a long time. When I was a little kid, I remember when I really didn't have any instilled biases about gender. I remember, like, up until I was, like, 7 or 8, I didn't really have any biases or, like, strong opinions on the differences between guys and girls, besides, I guess I was attracted to girls, right? Like, girls were to be attracted to, and guys were to be my buddies. You know, that was basically the way I conceptualized it, just naturally. There was no taught aspect of that, at least from what I could tell. But as time went by, particularly from media, less so than anything my parents taught me or anything that I learned in school, to some degree social interaction kind of enforced this, but it was mostly media that I grew up on. Like, this ubiquitous media has a tendency to frame women not as people who can be friends with guys or friends with men. Obviously, this is far more, like, platonic friendships between men and women are far more presented these days than they used to be. You go back to even the early 2000s, and every female character in everything had to be a love interest. And when they were a love interest, they were oftentimes never given much character. They were basically a trophy for a male protagonist to get. And when you're a young guy, you're usually going to aspire to and gravitate towards content with young male protagonists, where usually all the female characters are either like a family member who's just a plot device, or a woman who is a reward or a plot device to be a love interest for the main character, or a male character, right? And so these ideas, like, they're ubiquitous, and like, this may sound like nonsense to you right now, but really think about what I'm saying here. Think about the constant content that you've, like, watched, like, since you've grown up, and how those ideas are kind of presented and enforced almost subconsciously. And by the time I was a teenager, I'll admit, I kind of had a hard time viewing women and girls the same way that I viewed guys as people, right? Like, I viewed them more as, like, a force, a mystery. And a lot of that is just the idea of women being an enigma, a mystery to men, is like a stereotype, an idea pushed in a lot of media. Just things like that, where slowly over time, women stop just being another person, and they start being a thing, a trophy, a item, a commodity or something. And I think that idea, that never broken perspective that many young men might have taught to them in most cases, that is what the Tates are taking advantage of. Because if you view women as people, worthy of equal respect as any other human, you wouldn't fall into Andrew Tate's content. You wouldn't even be relatively susceptible to it, I would argue. But that idea, as brutally sexist as it sounds, is subconsciously true and believed in by a scary amount of men. I don't know. I think that's food for thought. Anyway, if you enjoyed this segment, please consider dropping a thumbs up no matter when or where you're watching. It really helps a lot to boost my content in the algorithm. Every single thumbs up basically prods YouTube into pushing my content out to more people in their recommended and into their, like, autoplay and sub feeds. So it really does help my channel a lot, and for totally free to hit that thumbs up like button. I really do appreciate it. And of course, if you haven't already, consider subscribing and ringing the bell icon to turn on all notifications so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video. It also really helps the channel. Commenting down below also helps too. And of course, if you want to support me and you can support me financially, you can do so by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, or doing so through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, or Patreon, or buying merch through the Streamlabs link down below. I do have a merch page on Streamlabs, and of course, you can also join my free Discord server, which is like the hub for my fan community. We do watch parties in there, call-in streams, game events, and I also announce all my streams and uploads there so you'll never miss a beat. But with all that said, I hope you enjoyed, and have a good one.